So let's get this party started. Jerry Durham here. Preparing to sell, the things you need to know. I've spent the last God knows how many years talking about scalability, growth, arrive, pay and stay, system building, connecting the dots, patient life cycle, patient experience. It all feeds into this, my friends. And so I mentioned after in a couple videos ago or in a video ago, if you're watching these in order, about the conversation around selling your business, buying your business, your physio business, buying, selling, and I'd say healthcare business, to be honest, buying, selling. I have heard more conversations in the last 6 months, 9 months than I heard in the 20 years prior. There was always, people moving, people doing things, but the groups out there looking to buy, the people out there looking to sell, the people talking about selling is at an all-time high. And I think it's going to keep going. And I think it's going to just ride 23 right into 24. I think this is a natural, or it is a natural progression straight into, let's talk about why you do this work. I've been preaching to you for 3 years. I always talk about short-term gain and then long-term value, right? And I've worked a lot on the short term, and everybody always wants to know about the short term, but it's time to look at the long term and understand how this work you need to do is going to prepare you to exit, prepare you to sell. And by the way, that can be multiple different things. I'm not going to go into that, but you got to start with the end in mind. And I'm just going to let that hang. Because if you start with the end in mind, you build the systems and processes, and you build a business that does well today and will do nothing but grow and grow in value. I didn't say in size. Grow and grow in value the longer you do it, and therefore be a bigger asset when it's time to exit, whatever the fuck that means to you. Doesn't matter. You just say, yeah, whenever my exit comes, I'm ready. What is that? I don't know right now. Cool. Keep running the business, keep doing what you're doing, because you are on a trajectory to have a huge asset. We all invest in assets, houses, stocks, gold, bonds, whatever, rentals. I mean, we could go into a million things. You must look at this as an asset you are building over time. And you must understand the finances of it, and you must understand the business of it and how what you do today builds a greater asset. So if you're preparing to sell, here's what you need to know. And I guess we can call the next few videos, or it's going to dive deeper into all this. So today, I just want you to leave here and go, do I know these things? Number one is the players in the game, right? There's the sellers, potentially you, right? There are buyers, the people who want to buy your asset, right? And there are a lot more buyers than sellers right now. Supply and demand, you do the math. That means you have control if you have the asset. There are sellers, there are buyers, there are advisors. And this is kind of interesting. This is where it gets a little muddy, right? There are advisors who help sellers find buyers. There are advisors who help buyers find sellers. So one of those, I mean, just think of it like a real estate agent. There are agents that work with buyers and agents that work with sellers, right? And they align people up. There are also brokers, right? So that would be like a real estate broker, right? So they're licensed. Advisors usually use the term advisor because maybe they didn't do the work to get licensed, but they did all the work to know what the fuck they're doing, right? So there are buyers, there are sellers, there are advisors for buyers, there are advisors for sellers, there are brokers for buyers, there are brokers for sellers. You need to know this because you need to start doing your work before you need one of them, okay? Whatever side you're on, you're going to need one or more of them. And you need to start investigating and talking to people and researching these people today. Okay. That's number one, the number one thing you need to know. Number two is your price is going to be dictated by your financials. So the financial side of the business needs to be managed, needs to be looked at, needs to be monitored properly. And you need to be looking at the right metrics that tell you your financial success, like your margin, your bottom line, your profit, but you also need to be looking at top line revenue, expenses, things like that. Your financials will determine the price that you are offered. And there's not a lot of give and take there. Okay. That's number two. Number one is you must know the players. Number two is you must know that your financials, the work you do and the money going into the bank or not is going to determine the asking or the probably the offer price. right? You can set a price, but they're going to go back to your financials and they're going to say, this is what it's worth. And yes, there will be some negotiation, but it can't get far from the paper, man. Can't. I got great news for you. Number 3, your value, your multiplier. This is where your magic comes in. This is, you have control over everything in this, but you have the most control over number 3. And by the way, your control over number 3 feeds into number 2 and gives you a bigger margin, better financials. So number 3 is really the most important thing. And number 3 is your work, your systems, your processes, your ability to what I call show your work, the connectedness of the business and how you get the results you get will be the multiplier. That's where you get the negotiation. That's where you get the bigger impact. That's where you get the say in it. So when you hear people bitching, I got ripped off, I've worked so hard, I've been in this so long, right? I got great relationships, everything like that. That doesn't show up in showing your work. How can whoever is buying your practice step in and reproduce what you're doing on Monday? When they buy it on Friday, how can they do that on Monday? We're going to go deeper into all these, but I want to leave you right now. If you're preparing to sell your practice, if you're in the process of selling your practice, if you're moving into selling your practice, those are the things you need to know. And you got to do work in all of those. The work you do in all 3 of those will result in a bigger payday for you. But here's the kicker. I said it already. The work you do in number 3 alone, the systems, the processes, the connectedness of the business will feed into number 2, right? So I'd say 1, is its own separate monster, which you got to do your work on. And then 2 and 3 are way more connected than anybody thinks. But you just can't be cramming people onto your schedule every day and churning out bills and think someone's going to want this thing and it's more desirable than right? Cramming people onto a schedule, no awareness of cancels, no awareness of no-shows and drop-offs, no awareness of a wait list, and just billing like crazy each month is going to do nothing to get you a bigger price. Again, it's going to be real easy to get to a number. And then you're going to say how hard you worked and how long you've been doing this. And just be like, you're just like a marketing machine billing people. Think about that for a second, because many of you are. We'll let that hang, right? And so, again, the 3 things you must know, right? The people involved, the advisors, brokers, buyers, sellers, that your financials will come up with the price. And number 3 is your work. Your ability to show your work, your systems, your processes, the connectedness of all the automation and the people in it will determine your multiplier, which will get you a bigger price. And again, there are people that help you with that, like me. So again, I started this by telling you that, number 3 should sound like what you've heard me say I do with people. So I always start with people telling them, we're going to get a result today, but you're going to plug away and you're going to do the work because this is your asset. And I start with my new clients, even before on the sales calls. Where do you see yourself in 3 years? You're successful in 3 years. What's it look like? What's your exit? And again, you don't have to be dialed in on it, but you got to know, how long do I want to be in this? Really, probably that's a great thing. And again, you don't have to sell it. You don't have to give it away. There are multiple things to do. So those are the 3 things you need to know to start preparing to sell your practice. Be prepared to sell your practice. And when I say preparing to sell your practice so that you can maximize your time, money, and energy that you put into it out the backside. All right. It's going to be a great series, and I'm going to enjoy talking about all this. See you soon. Bye.